Liam's life felt like a series of checkboxes. At 20, he was a sophomore at a good university, studying engineering because it was practical, and dating a girl named Chloe, who was perfect for his demographic. As his mother once put it, he went to parties, aced exams, and followed the well-worn path laid out for him. But beneath the surface of this perfectly curated existence, a profound boredom festered. His conversations with friends felt shallow. His dates with Chloe were predictable, and he found himself staring at the ceiling at night, a hollow ache in his chest. He felt like a tourist in his own life, just passing through. Then he met Elara. It happened at the small, independent bookstore he frequented. He was browsing the philosophy section, lost in thought, when a hand reached for the same worn copy of The Myth of Sisyphus he was reaching for. Their fingers brushed. He looked up, expecting to see a fellow student. Instead, he saw a woman with a calm, intelligent face and eyes that held the quiet wisdom of 1,000 unspoken stories. Her hair, a cascade of silver and light brown, was pulled back loosely, and she wore a simple but elegant linen dress. "Sorry," she said, her voice a low, melodic hum. "You were here first." "No, it's fine," Liam stammered, his mind suddenly clear and focused. "You can have it. Are you sure?" she asked, a gentle smile on her lips. "I've read it a dozen times. But if you're a fan, we could always talk about it." That was the beginning. Her name was Elara, and she was an artist, a sculptor who worked with found objects and discarded metal. She was 40 years old, a fact she mentioned with the same casual ease she might describe the weather. Liam, for some reason, didn't flinch. In fact, her age didn't seem to matter at all. What mattered was the way she talked about art, about life, about the quiet rebellions and profound joys that lay hidden beneath the surface of daily existence. She didn't talk about grades or career paths or the latest viral meme. She talked about finding beauty in rust, about the loneliness of being an artist, and about the deep, thrilling complexity of human emotions. He started visiting her studio, a converted warehouse loft filled with towering sculptures and the scent of metal and oil paint. They would drink coffee and talk for hours, the light shifting through the grimy windows as the day went on. Elara saw a depth in him he didn't know he possessed. She challenged his opinions, listened to his half-formed ideas, and made him feel like he was finally seeing the world in color. He wasn't just a checklist anymore. He was a person with thoughts and feelings worth exploring. Their friendship blossomed into something more, a subtle gravitational shift that felt both inevitable and terrifying. One evening, after a long day of sculpting, Elara wiped a smudge of charcoal from his cheek. Her hand lingered for a moment, and in her eyes, he saw a reflection of the same raw, complicated feelings that had been building inside him. She leaned in, and he met her halfway. The kiss was not the clumsy, fumbling kind he was used to with girls his age. It was soft, deliberate, and spoke of a lifetime of experience and unspoken understanding. In that moment, the 20-year age gap dissolved into a meaningless number. It was just Liam and Elara, two souls finally finding their rhythm. Their relationship became a beautifully kept secret. Liam told his parents he was spending more time studying or working on group projects. He broke up with Chloe, offering a vague explanation about needing to focus on his future. He spent every free moment with Elara, soaking up her calm presence like a man who had been parched for years. With her, he felt like he could finally breathe. She was his confidant, his lover, his home. They navigated their worlds separately, him, with his youthful anxieties and academic pressures. Her, with her established life and career, but they were always connected. They were a quiet island of two in a loud and bustling sea. But a secret, no matter how carefully guarded, is a fragile thing. His parents, Sarah and Mark, were good people, but they were also creatures of habit and expectation. They had a vision for Liam's life, a safe and predictable path. They noticed the changes in him first. He was happier, more settled, but also more secretive. He didn't come home for dinner as often. He answered their calls with a new, guarded tone. They attributed it to the college phase, a rite of passage where young men pull away from their families. But a persistent unease lingered. The discovery came on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Liam had told them he was heading to the library, a perfectly plausible lie. He had actually promised to help Elara hang some new paintings in her loft, and they planned to have a late lunch at her favorite cafe, a small, unassuming place with a beautiful outdoor patio. Sarah and Mark were driving home from a volunteer event when Mark, stuck in traffic, decided to take a shortcut through a neighborhood they rarely visited. As they rounded a corner, Sarah's eyes caught sight of a familiar figure at an outdoor table. "Is that?" she began, squinting. "No, it can't be," Mark said, but his voice lacked conviction. It was Liam, laughing, his head thrown back, a look of uninhibited joy on his face. Sitting across from him was Elara. They were close. Leaning in over their small table, her hand resting on his arm in a way that was undeniably intimate. The scene was so gentle, so normal, and yet to Sarah and Mark, it felt like a bomb going off. They saw the silver in her hair, the laugh lines around her eyes, the 20-year difference that screamed at them from a distance. Mark floored the accelerator and sped past the cafe, his face a mask of shock. Sarah sat silently in the passenger seat, her hands trembling, her mind reeling. The perfect image of their son's life had just shattered. The confrontation happened that evening. Liam returned home to a silence so thick it was suffocating. His parents were sitting at the kitchen table, two stiff, unmoving sentinels. "We need to talk," Mark said, his voice flat. Liam's heart sank. He knew immediately. The carefully constructed wall of his secret had crumbled. The conversation started with quiet questions and escalated quickly into a storm of anger, fear, and hurt. "Who was that woman, Liam?" Sarah asked, her voice tight with a pain that cut him to the quick. "Her name is Elara," he said, his voice steady, though his hands were shaking. "She's my girlfriend." The words hung in the air, a physical weight. Mark stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Your girlfriend, Liam. She's old enough to be your mother. What is this, a joke? Is she paying for things? Are you in some kind of trouble?" Liam felt a rush of cold anger. She's not taking advantage of me. She's the best thing that has ever happened to me." "Best thing," Sarah cried, her eyes welling up with tears. "Liam, we are so concerned about you. She's an adult. She should know better than to get involved with a boy your age. What does she want from you? This isn't normal, Liam. This isn't right." The word normal hit him like a physical blow. He had spent his whole life trying to fit into their idea of normal. And now, when he had finally found something that made him feel truly alive, they were condemning it. "What's not normal is living a life that doesn't feel like my own," he shot back, his voice rising. With Elara, I'm not just a set of expectations. I'm me. She sees me, truly sees me, in a way no one else ever has. The argument raged on, a torrent of accusations, defenses, and painful truths. His parents couldn't see past the number. They saw a 20-year age gap as a gaping chasm of danger and irresponsibility. He saw it as a bridge between two people who understood each other on a profound level. There was no common ground. The night ended with Liam retreating to his room, the door slammed shut. The perfect, safe world he had known for 20 years, shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. The next few weeks were a desolate, silent war. Liam and his parents coexisted in the house, but they didn't truly speak. Their communication was limited to terse, necessary exchanges. He went to Elara's loft as often as he could, seeking solace in her quiet strength. Elara was a rock. She didn't apologize for who she was or for their love, but he saw the flicker of pain in her eyes. "This is what I was afraid of, Liam," she said one night, tracing the outline of his jaw with a soft hand. "The judgment, it's a part of these things. Are you sure you can handle it?" "With you, I can handle anything," he said, and he meant it. He had a newfound resolve, a steeliness he never knew he possessed. He wasn't going to let their fear ruin the most important relationship of his life. The turning point came weeks later, in a clumsy, unexpected way. Liam was helping his mother sort through old photo albums, a small, forced effort to mend the broken bridge. He saw a picture of his parents from their early 20s, looking so young and carefree. Sarah looked at it, a sad smile on her face. "We were so different back then," she said, her voice soft. "I was so naive. I thought I had everything figured out." Liam took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm still figuring things out. I'm not a kid. I know who I am, and I know who Elara is. She's not some predator. She's kind and brilliant, and she makes me want to be a better person." Sarah looked at him, truly looked at him, for the first time since the night of the discovery. She saw not the boy she had raised, but the man he was becoming, a man with conviction and purpose. The words, so simple and sincere, cut through the noise of her fears. She said nothing more that night, but the silence was different. It was no longer a wall of anger, but a quiet space for reflection. A week later, his father, Mark, approached him. He looked tired. "I'm not going to pretend I understand," Mark said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "I don't. This isn't what we expected for you. But I saw the way you looked at her, Liam, at the cafe. I've never seen you look that happy." Liam felt his throat tighten. "I am Dad. I'm truly happy." "I want you to bring her to dinner," Mark said, the words heavy with effort. "I want to meet her. I want to see for myself." The dinner was an agonizing mix of nerves and hope. Liam felt like a tightrope walker, trying to keep the balance between his two worlds. Elara arrived, poised and graceful, in a simple black dress. She brought a bottle of wine and a small, delicate sculpture of a bird in flight, a gift for his parents. The first part of the evening was a tense, polite ballet of small talk. Sarah and Mark asked her about her art, and Elara answered with quiet confidence, her passion for her work shining through. She spoke of her exhibitions, her creative process, and the joy of finding beauty in unexpected places. She didn't try to win them over. She was simply herself. Gradually, the tension began to melt. Sarah and Elara found a common interest in gardening, and they talked about heirloom tomatoes with a genuine warmth that surprised Liam. Mark, a quiet man who was often slow to trust, found himself intrigued by Elara's stories of traveling the world for inspiration. He saw the respect in her eyes when she spoke to Liam, and he saw the way she looked at his son with a mixture of adoration and quiet pride. The age gap was still there, a silent elephant in the room, but it was no longer a chasm of fear. It was just a fact, one part of a much larger, more complex whole. They saw that Elara was not the calculating woman they had imagined. She was a kind, intelligent, and mature woman who genuinely loved their son. They saw the way their son blossomed in her presence, how he had become more confident, more articulate, more himself. By the end of the night, no one mentioned the age difference. The conversation had shifted to shared stories, laughter, and a tentative, fragile new beginning. The path forward wasn't perfectly smooth. There were still uncomfortable silences and moments of doubt. But the silence that now existed was one of understanding, not anger. His parents had taken a step, a massive leap of faith, toward accepting a love that didn't fit into the neat, predictable boxes they had created. And Liam, for the first time in his life, felt a deep sense of peace. He had found his person, and in doing so, he had also found the courage to be his own. The checkboxes were gone. In their place was a beautiful, messy, and infinitely more authentic life, all thanks to a chance encounter over a book and a love that defied all expectations.